All right, welcome everybody, and thank you for tuning in today. You're listening to the Adam Messer Show, and I'm your host, Adam Messer, here on WRUU-LP Savannah, Georgia, 107.5 FM, WRUU.org. We are Savannah Sonics Community Radio with Global Soul. And my guest today, he's been on here a couple times, and is a friend of mine. I'm really excited to have him back on. Welcome, John Stamp. How are you doing today?
I am happy to be here, man. Thank you.
Hello, John.
Yeah, you got me?
I got you now.
All right. Well, in that case, I'm very happy to be here.
Awesome. Yeah, so everybody, John has, he's been writing for a while. He has several published books, and he's also come on board with me with Valhalla Books with his Jackson Cole novel series, which is an urban fantasy series about a detective named Jackson Cole who's in Charleston, and he gets kind of caught up in a really strange case, and then he kind of gets stuck with dealing with all the crazy stuff like that. And so John, could you tell us a little bit more about Jackson Cole and Shattered Circle and your new book Acquisitor?
Yeah, when I came up with Jackson Cole, it was I wanted to take I don't even think the word skeptic would really work for him. Just the most pragmatic, no nonsense detective you could think of. No belief in anything supernatural, no belief in anything paranormal, and throw him up against the worst kind of supernatural evil I could think of. So that was what got me going with Shattered Circle when I wrote it. So kind of, how do you fight a demon with nothing but handcuffs and a handgun, sort of thing. It ended up being a blast to write, and that was 2015, I think. And then I always had in the back of my mind I wanted to do more, and I had the idea for a character, a witch from Charleston, that I couldn't quite figure out how to use her in a story. I just had her in my head, and I knew that there was a lot of good stuff there. But it took me like 4 years to come up with a plot line that would work, that I could really, flesh her out. So that's where Acquisitor came from. And Acquisitor's got a couple loose ends from Shattered Circle that ended up being magic-driven entities with no leash because of the way things wound up in Shattered Circle. So there's some things just wreaking havoc on the city, and nobody really understands how to deal with it. And when it comes to Jackson Cole and his partner Miles, they want nothing to do with it. They are almost willful blindness and ignoring signs of the supernatural coming back into their lives, because it was such a hard experience the first time. It shook their complete worldview. So all they want to do is just be police, work good cases, serve the people, and go home. And unfortunately, because it's my world, they don't get to do that.
And then they also got like a kind of a branded nickname, didn't they?
Yeah.
Like they call they after this case they get called the Freak Police.
Yeah, because of the way the Shattered Circle case wound up. It was very prominent Charleston, old money family. Mm-hmm. That family name could not be tarnished, given the the political way Charleston works. So a lot of the details were kind of hidden under the rug. But at the police department, there's no way you can't keep a secret. The last place you can keep a secret is a police department. So as details trickled out, there's trash talking, and then we got a weird case and nobody else knows how to do this. So you've done one, so you handle it. So
you're the creep, crazy night crawler type detectives now. That's you.
Yeah, exactly. Because you stumbled into one once, now it's yours. So
you're the expert. You had that one time, that one and done, and now that's you.
Yep. You remember that one time? Well, that's you now. So they're called the Freak Police around the department. Him and his partner. And it's not the best not the best nickname, but it's something they got to deal with. Two guys that just want to do their job and end up getting every weirdo that comes down the pipe.
Well, I think it's pretty cool. And just to throw this out there, everybody. So ValhallaBooks.com, You can go on there. There's a link to our Amazon page if you want to get more information. And John's books are right there. And then also, John, your website is johnstamp.writer.com or?
Yep.
Okay.
johnstamp.writer.com.
I always mix it up. I always want to say John Stamp author. Like I try to tag you and stuff online. It's like John Stamp author. It's like no, it's John Stamp writer.
Well, it's funny. I don't remember where this came from, but I think I was either reading a biography on Ian Fleming or Hemingway, and they made a point of discriminating between author and writer, whereas the writer is a person who writes, and author is an artist, and I don't consider myself to be very, very artsy. So I like kind of the more blue collar term of writer, and it probably makes no sense to anybody but me and either Hemingway or Ian Fleming who wrote it. I don't remember where the quote came from, but it was a very interesting quote, and it just stuck with me. Yeah,
it's weird because I am a writer and an author, journalist, and I never really heard that before. But I'm very pragmatic too. I like to be down to earth, humble, and I like working with people who are the same way. So I'm pretty excited about having you with you coming on board with your books with Valhalla Books. I know. Go ahead.
I think it's going to be a lot of fun. I see the way that you approach this game. We've kind of been in it together since we both started writing.
Yeah.
We just ran into each other up in Savannah at one point. But just the work you put into it and the sweat you put into it, you dedicate a lot. So I think it's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's so crazy, John. I laugh, but this is one of the things. Writing is the most amount of work for the least amount of pay that I've ever done as far as a job, but it's also one of the most rewarding jobs I've ever had. And
yeah,
I love it. I mean, and then it's kind of crazy too because with the Savannah Quill and all, the idea was to connect writers and readers to promote literacy, right? And then from there, we've done the Books and Brews events where we're raising money for the Ronald McDonald charities, and then last year, well, actually not even last year, it was the year before. I had put together I wanted to publish an anthology, and I'd been calling the publishing thing the Savannah Quill Publishing House, but I wanted to separate Savannah Quill from trying to sell books, because the Savannah Quill, we did so many charitable events and all. I didn't want to, muddy the waters really.
Yep.
So I wanted to start like a small, not a small printing press, but a small publishing house, and have its own legitimate, book icon and feel for it. And I've always been a big fan of Thor and the Vikings and Led Zeppelin's Immigrant Song, And so I was like, oh man, this Valhalla Books, I just love the idea of it. And it's crazy too because with the journey of publishing, and for example, with you self-publishing and independent publishing, and same for me, I was independent publishing. I'm still independent publishing, but it's with the Valhalla Books publishing company, and putting together a team. Josh Vasquez is working with me, and you're publishing with me, and then Winfield Strock, he worked with you on the editing, and we've got a lot of people that have come together, to work on these different things, and we all have the same passion. That's one of the things I love about it, is that, we're all working regular gigs, that we do to pay for, our living and, that kind of thing. But we all write, we all publish, and it's something that we really, really enjoy.
That was actually something I did not see coming when I got into this writer game, was that it really gets to you after a while. It's because I got done with my master's degree, and I just took all my work time. I would go in, wake up early, start writing from 6 to 7, and doing my research and my papers. And then I get done with grad school, and I'm still getting up at that time with nothing to do. And I was like, well, I guess I'll take a shot at this. So I outline and dedicate that time with a goal of 500 words a day, and within a year, I got a novel. I'm like, oh, that was fun. Why don't we do that again? But now I'm to the point where it's like, if I don't write, if I go a couple days where I'm not writing or I'm stuck in the editing process or doing something else, I start getting antsy. Like it's like, if I don't go to the gym at least every 3 or 4 days, I'll get antsy. Now, if I don't get my mind workouts in with my writing, I get the same way. So it's like, oh boy, a nice little obsession we got started here.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's crazy because the last 2 months, I have not been writing, but I've been doing a lot of publishing work. And so I know what you mean, like where you kind of get in editing and publishing mode, and you're not writing. You're like, oh man, and it's crazy, man, because I've written. Actually, I wrote a novel, the third Blood Thrasher this year, and I wrote like another 30,000 word novella, and it is weird. I've written a lot already this year, but I haven't been writing for the last 2 months, and it's been killing me. So I've been working on the projects that we've got to get finished for Valhalla Books. They're all coming out this month and next month, and everything's coming together. Like the manuscripts are coming in, the cover art and stuff like that is coming in, and so I'm at that mode now, right? I'm like, oh man, I need to start writing again. And I know it's a total excuse. It's just like with the gym, man. Like you talk about going to the gym 3 or 4 times a week. I have a job. I do industrial electric work, so I do physical work all day long.
Yeah.
And I just don't feel like going, outside and working out, or even at the house working out, because I've got dumbbells and I got a kettlebell and I've got, different stuff at the house to work out with, but I just don't feel like it. And I know it's an excuse. It's just like with the writing. Like I could make time to write, but I sometimes I catch myself just watching little videos or reading, reading or whatever. But then, like also do a lot of work on, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. I do a lot of work on publishing. The other days when I'm at work, I'm just wiped, especially with the heat.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah. I think you ever notice though, you kind of get those plateaus where you're like with the gym, because you're a really fit guy, you have to be with your job, and like I'm chubby, but I'm pretty fit as far as like endurance and stuff like that. But I got a little gut, and I've been slowly getting that off. But you ever notice that with those plateaus where you're like, oh, you kind of catch yourself in a rut, and then if you miss a day, it's like, oh, the next day's easier to miss, and then like 2 or 3 days go, and you're like, man, I need to get back at it.
Yeah, that's when it just hurts. And writing's the same way with the physical conditioning. Is you skip a couple workouts and then it's just painful. Mm-hmm. But with writing, you skip a couple writing workouts and then you sit down and it's like, there's going to be some ugly words on the screen for a little while. You're gonna need to work out some rust.
Yeah, like this one story that I was writing for the Patreon, I'm like midpoint, and then I stopped working on it about 2 months ago. I was writing a chapter a week, and that's how. Like yesterday, I was like, I had totally blanked out and forgotten all about it. Like it's so weird. Yeah. I hadn't thought about it. And yesterday when I was going through the files, I saw it. I was like, oh man, I need to finish that story.
Yeah, that's even worse because you lose your character's voice in your head, and you got to remember like what you mean with this. What's this person really like, and I got to finding that consistency again gets really tough. That's not easy. That's what made it tough with Acquisitor was I've got 4 books in between. Four books all non-related between Shattered Circle and Acquisitor. Mm-hmm. So remembering, who Jackson Cole was and the banter between him and Miles and just trying to keep the that wit that was between the two of them. It took a little while to get back. But I just remember put him. If I keep it in my head that I've got 2 15-year-old teenagers with badges and guns and have them trash talk with each other, I feel like I'm right back where I started.
Yeah, go watch some bro videos and you're like, oh, yep. Go. The one of the best buddy cop movies that I love is The Other Guys.
Oh, that was funny.
I love that movie. Gator gotta get.
Yep.
That's what it kind of reminds me of, like, with that, like, he's like, if y'all haven't seen the other guy's movie and you like comedy, you like buddy cop movies, that's a great one, in my opinion. Mark Wahlberg and Will Ferrell. Yeah, I might actually watch that tonight after we leave. After I do some writing, John.
That's right.
All right, I gotta do the station ID real quick. Everybody, you're tuning in today. You're listening to, actually, me and John, we're buddies. We're just sitting here kind of chit-chatting like, whatever. We're not trash talking, though. But you're listening to us here on WRU, LP Savannah, Georgia, 107.5 FM, WRU.org. We are Savannah Sonics Community Radio with Global Soul. Speaking of, and that it's kind of crazy, man, but there is like this whole juvenile humor to some of the stuff in there. Like the meat sweats joke.
Stop meat sweating on my crime scene.
Yeah. and I was like, I'm crazy enough. I'm 3 chapters into the final, cause I read the first 3 chapters when you initially sent it. And then like, I know it sounds crazy, but as the publisher, when I've got somebody working as an editor, I don't want to muddy up the waters again. Right. So with you as the writer and Wynn as the editor, I don't want to have an influence over that. I want to be impartial, and I would like to see, the finished product, because I get to see the pitch. I get to see the original, but I didn't want to read too far in because, first of all, time. Secondly, I didn't want to, read too far in, and then I don't care who you are, y'all, but when you publish and you edit, you automatically just start looking for errors, and like, I don't like to do that. I like to, try to look at it for enjoyment and the story, the bones first, So I'm like 3 chapters into the new one, and the final version. Of course, I had to go through and for the formatting and everything, and I did the Grammarly check. I did check it, and there were just a couple of things I just updated or whatever. Not a big deal, but I feel like this series, especially with the way that you got several, like you said, several books in between. You've matured as a writer. You've also, matured as a person, right? And I mean, like, as far as living life, like you're a little bit older than when you first wrote the first one, right?
Oh yeah.
And so I feel like it's a really cool progression. And then, the cool thing about it too, with doing this with the publishing thing, Jeffrey Hayes is a cover designer, artist. He also does like really cool digital art. And before you were working with me with Valhalla Books, you were kind of thinking about like an idea for a cover design, because whatever, and you started working with him. Well, then when you came on with Valhalla Books, started working with him, and I was just blown away with how he put together the new cover for Shattered Circle and the new cover for Acquisitor.
Oh yeah.
I was just like, wow. It's just fantastic. The design, the feel of it. I've had a bunch of compliments already just on those covers alone.
Yeah. The hard part was there's at least 3 or 4 different storylines running through Shattered Circle and Acquisitor, and it was, when you think about what does the cover need to look like, it's like, oh man, well, which conflict do I go with?
Yeah.
It's just tough, but yeah, you mentioned the difference in growth between Shattered Circle and Acquisitor, and it's like I noticed going back to make sure, looking for consistency between the 2 books and making sure I've got the history right. Going back and having to use that as my resource, and you start reading your own writing, you're like, oh, this is just it's like listening to my own voice. I just can't do it. In the first one, I was like trying to get dialects down, like trying to write people with accents, and I'm like, oh, now I look back at it. And it just happens that I just read over Elmore Leonard's 10 Rules for Writing again. And like one of his big ones is like, don't try to do a dialect if you don't know what you're talking about. I'm like, well, now I know, But I think I did Russians. I think I did, I don't know, in the first one. And I'm just, sometimes I just, it's like hearing your own voice. It's like, I just can't do it. Yeah. It's looking back. I mean, I love the story. I love the characters, but there's some things, as like you say, between book 1 and book 5, there's some differences in how I operate,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As far as the maturity thing goes, I'm not really sure about maturity. I don't consider myself to have actually become an adult until I was 36 years old when I had a kid.
Yeah. I meant matured in the context of, aged.
Oh, mate, I'm definitely aged. Yeah, you got me there.
Yeah. So yeah, we've all gotten older. So, but yeah, I feel the same way for my writing, and then especially formatting and understanding the publishing business. And the crazy thing about it is trying to connect with readers is, I feel like that's the number one challenge that I hear from authors over and over again. Connecting with the readers, finding readers that are willing and really that like to read your stuff,
Mm-hmm.
And I know that I've had that same problem from time to time, especially with my books, but I feel like with the approach with Valhalla Books, with us having different authors and we work together, we're kind of pulling a common resource.
Mm-hmm.
We all have, we have different people that read our stuff and kind of similar, but just kind of doing that format, connecting with these people, talking to folks about, like the books, sending out emails, posting stuff on social media. I've been doing TikToks lately. I've been doing what they call book talk.
You mentioned that to me, and I downloaded it and I looked at it. I'm like,
it's
I'm
crazy.
I'm trying, man. I just
well, I've been doing it, and like it's so weird because Book Talk or TikTok and all these other ones, the algorithm is like based off of whatever, and they try to send you stuff that they think you're gonna like or whatever, and yada yada yada. And I noticed that TikTok's been changing a little bit because it used to be kind of like the Wild Wild West, where it was like just free for all, whatever. But I noticed lately that they've been kind of curtailing it more, and like I used to get a lot, not a ton of views, but I used to get a lot more views, and then lately I've been getting like almost none. So today I was like, well, you know what? I'm going to make a couple of videos just about whatever I want to talk about. And I made a video about my comic book haul, and then I made a video like a tour of the studio, and I'm like, you want to see what it's like to go on the radio? There you go.
Yeah, that's right. But yeah, that's a good avenue. Mine is, with my 2 little guys, I go to work and then I play usually Legos all night long. And
Yeah.
Then I go to sleep. So it's like TikTok videos are just would be. You want to see me make dinner for 2 little kids?
Well, yeah. Well, the thing too, like with the
amazing.
book talk, is being able to talk about like your books and stuff like that. That's what I do with it. I saw, speaking of Legos, like when Lego toys or whatever. When my son was little, I spent a good small fortune on plastic,
Oh yeah.
and even back then, he's 19. He just turned 19 this last week, and but he's not in the studio today. Usually he is, but he has some calculus stuff that he's got to do today for school.
That's a bad word.
Yeah, and so they have a Mario Lego. It's like
I've seen those.
Digital Mario Lego, and I was like, what? So somebody posted, talking about TikTok, somebody posted a video of Mario, and it said that Mario will go to sleep. And the guy's like, what? So he turns the little thing on, and it comes on, it's like, hey, it's Mario, blah, blah, blah. And then like he lays the Mario down, and I swear the Mario starts to go to sleep. It's like, and then it closes its eyes and it's snoring. And the little belly's got the digital output or whatever. And I was like, I feel kind of like they have these toys today that are so advanced, I mean, when I was a kid, we played like with the little plastic army men and and that kind of stuff. And then it came out with like Transformers and G.I. Joes and all that. Like, I was about 9 or 8 or 9, whatever. But
yeah, there's you mentioned sinking a fortune into engineering blocks, but we've got to the point now where my 8-year-old will just hang out on Amazon looking at Lego sets, and just to get a rise out of his mom, he'll be like, "Hey, can we buy $160 Lego set?" She's like, "Oh, absolutely not." And then on the side she'll like go to me and be like, "Do not do that," because I actually shocked her to her core one day. But I just happened to we needed like a summer hobby for the kids. So I dropped $160 on a Lego Millennium Falcon, and she I think she short circuited for a second when she saw how much money I'd spent on that toy.
Oh my gosh.
So it was pretty funny. Yeah. It was funny for me, not for her.
Yeah. It was funny. It was funny for her when she's like, "Oh, okay."
Are you out of your mind? Yes, yes, I am.
Funny, strange, not funny.
That's right.
Yeah,
I'll tell you, you've mentioned Win a couple times. That dude is a great book coach.
Oh yeah.
And, yep. I mean, I knew Win before we started working together, but that guy is, as far as what you want when you're stuck in the editing process, and I say stuck because it's the writing the first 100,000 words is a piece of cake. It's going back and fixing it afterwards. That's the problem.
Yeah.
But that guy, his feedback and just the way he looks at the story really complimented the way I like to write. So you got a good one with that guy. He's a good coach.
Yeah. Win and I have been friends for a while too, and the same kind of thing, you know. I met him doing the convention. I was covering a convention, and he was a published author, and he was a guest at the convention at GnomeCon. And I met him in 2014. And I also met this other guy named Randy. And I can't for the life of me think of Randy's last name right this second. But Randy introduced me to Bobby Nash. And it was so crazy because the first year I met Win, he was a guest, and you know, we talked. I took his picture. I was working for the newspaper, and we talked about writing. And I was like, "You can publish a book? You can actually what?" You know. And at this point, I hadn't had any inclination of wanting to publish a book. I'd always liked to write, but I didn't know you could publish books like that. And I thought you had to go through an agent and put your manuscript on there and all that. And I actually had a professor in college when I was doing my undergrad that he had asked me if I'd be interested in writing something. And then I gave him like a little 10-page, treatment of a story that I started. And it just, I don't know, it just didn't work out. So I met Win at GnomeCon, and we talked about writing and publishing, and back then he was like really into like steampunk stuff, because he had a lot of his books are like steampunk things, and he had this book called Red Sounding, which is like if Red October met Dracula.
Yeah, I've read that one.
Yeah, and like if you're a Cold War fan and you're like a fantasy, like a Dracula dark fantasy type fan, that's a good book, and it's. I'm not plugging it for Valhalla Books, but it was out. It's been out for like 10 years, but Win is coming on board with us with Valhalla Books as well, and he's going to be republishing all of his stuff with us. But Red Sounding is going to be coming out in October, and the reason why I say that is because it blew me away, because I was like, oh man, and then so that was the first year I was like we were like acquaintances or whatever. Well, then I saw him again the next year at another convention. And we ended up hanging out and talking for a while, and we just we became friends, and we really hit it off. And then, of course, when I started doing the Savannah Quill in 2016, so that was 2014, 2015, 2016, Josh Vasquez and Win Strock were like the first ones that I had talked to about doing the Savannah Quill book convention. And when he's been doing editing, and before the pandemic, they down where he lives, they had like a writers group, and they would get together, and so I was really excited because it's kind of strange when he's been part of the Quill and all that. And then he also had a story in the first anthology with Valhalla Books. But then earlier this year, he was saying that he would like to contribute if there was anything that he could do to contribute to help with Valhalla Books. And I was like, well, that's awesome. I don't have anything right this second, but whatever. And then whenever you came on board with your books, I was like, okay, this would be a good match. So I'm glad it worked out with you and Win. I'm really glad.
Yeah, when you get those good comments that really make you think, it's he did a fantastic job. I'll work with that dude again anytime.
Oh yeah. Oh, you will be on the third book for sure.
Yeah.
All right, I got to play the underwriting announcements. So we'll be right back. All right, everybody.
This portion of WRUU Savannah Soundings programming is provided by listeners and by Brighter Day Natural Foods. Brighter Day Natural Foods has been serving Savannah's healthy food and supplement needs since 1978. It is located at the corner of Bull Street and Park Avenue. They have available online ordering and curbside delivery, and now a walk-up window for smoothies, juices, and sandwiches from the deli. They are open from 9 a.m. to 7 p.m. Monday through Saturday, and 12 to 5:30 p.m. on Sunday. More information can be found at brighterdayfoods.com.
What does it mean when we say that WRUU is a community radio station? It doesn't just mean that we invite the community to create programming, and it doesn't just mean that we are a voice for the community. It also means that we are counting on the community to keep us going, and you are the community. Almost all of our modest budget comes from small annual or monthly donations from listeners like you. You get to enjoy our community-focused programming because many others have stepped forward to do their part. Now do your part by joining our community of listener donors. Go to WRUU.org right now and make a one-time or monthly donation, and thank you for supporting Savannah's community radio station, 107.5 FM.
Mike, what?
All right, we're back, everybody. And as the announcements we're talking about this, we are WRUU 107.5 FM here in Savannah, and we have about 65 different hosts with different programming. We run the station 24/7, 7 days a week, and I believe we're going into our 5th year. I joined after about a year and a half or so, I think, of them being here. So I think we're going into our 5th year. But as you know, with the pandemic, we have not been able to do any of our in-person fundraiser events. So if you feel so inclined, you can go to WRUU.org and make a donation. If you like programming like this, with where I get to talk with cool people like John and other creative people, that's how we do it, with your support here in with the studio. We don't pay any of the hosts. We're all volunteers. We're an all volunteer staff, and it is a community radio station, so we're not for profit, and we're not doing this to make money. The funds that we raise help with operation costs like paying the electricity, the studio rent, new equipment, those kind of things, broadcasting fees, those kind of things. So you can go on to WRUU.org and make a one-time donation, or you can make a monthly contribution. We really do appreciate your support. And the difference, I'm just going to put this out there to you too, and it's just me on a little soapbox here for a minute. But I did my little, and John, this is kind of funny, I did my little TikTok earlier, just like the walkthrough of the studio, because I feel like most people, our studio is set up a little bit different than the bigger places, because I've been inside of some of the bigger studios around town, and we have it set up. It's kind of cozy. There's room for a lot of people, not a lot of people, but 3 or 4 people. It's a nice little size, studio. And it is a community, radio station here. We don't have, corporate sponsors. We don't have, we're all doing this as volunteers, and I love it. I think that's part of the reason why the last 3 years, and I know it sounds really crazy, but for the last 3 years, we've actually won the best local radio station and the best local talk radio station. And when I was a kid, I used to listen to Cincinnati 700 WOW, and it was the first 100,000 watt radio station in the U.S. And they had the Reds games, and I would listen to that a lot. They also had talk shows and stuff like that. And they had this one show at night called the Chuck and Bozo Show, and you could literally hear it in like 38 states, and he would have people calling in from all over the place, you know. And as a kid, I never had a dream to be on the radio. I never thought about it, you know, but as an adult, I'm like, wow, you know, it kind of hit me today because I never really thought about it, but we have almost 200,000 people that live in the greater Savannah metropolitan area, right? And I didn't really think about it, but like when we're doing this, you know, like there's up to potentially 200,000 people that could be listening to it at any given time. Not that there are. Yeah, I know at least of, you know, about 3 or 4 people that do consistently listen. So I appreciate them. Like Terry and Darlene Dremel, they're always listening. Miss Harriet listens. So I give a shout out to y'all. But I was just thinking, I was like, man, you know, the idea of it going out to those many people, and then that's not even the podcast. Like the podcast can go out to like all. I wish, you know, like I wish there were millions of people listening, but there's actually usually I have about 500 to 600 people a month that download the podcast. You know,
Yeah.
and I thought about that. I was like, if you had a room, right, full of, let's just say you had a big family gathering and like 20 people showed up. You know, that's not huge, but it's a good sized one. That's a lot of people. You know, let's say you had like an extended family gathering, you had 100 people show up, you know, to a barbecue. That's a lot of people. You know,
that's a fair sized audience.
Yeah. So, you know, and it's kind of crazy because I think same thing with the readers. And that's kind of where I'm kind of circling back around to. Same thing with the readers. I would love it if we were able to, you know, reach those levels of readership, like, you know, millions of books sold and whatever. I would love that. But I'm very thankful and grateful for our audience that we have and the folks that do read it, because, you know, it's like when you create something, right? You know, you created this universe, this world of characters and, you know, these different problems that they have to face and deal with. And then you get somebody that's like, wow, that's a great story, you know?
It's and it's funny, you know, if the characters only knew you, they would have a bounty on my head.
They're like, this is the guy?
You're the sole source of all the world's problems.
It's like, this is the guy?
Yeah, this is the guy. He's got to go. But yeah, I mean, being a writer is that's a wholly solo, you know, enterprise. It's not like there's anybody sitting on your shoulder or telling you to get at it when you don't do it, you know. And then when you do finish it out, it's like exactly the problem. Like, you know, you've just spent a year writing this thing by yourself. So now how do you get out and find people who are going to read it? And that's why I love doing the signings. I love doing the book conventions. Mm-hmm. It's just, and you don't go the sad thing is that, you know, you go there and you start meeting the other authors and writers, and every now and then there's somebody there that's expecting to sell like hundreds of books and make a bunch of money, and it's like, you don't go to those things to make money. No. You go to those things to meet people and talk books with readers, and it's a very creative process. It's a lot of fun just talking stories with people. So, but it's just not something. You're not going to go to a book signing or a convention and make money out of it. It's just not the way it is.
Yeah, it's crazy. Go ahead.
I'm sorry. I was just saying, but it is great just to talk to readers and hear their stories as much as yours. It's just a lot of fun. Oh yeah.
Well, I was talking to Bobby Nash last night. I hadn't talked to him in a while. I just want to catch up with him, and called him up and said, hey. And Bobby's been on the show before, and he's going to be back on in October actually. But we were talking about, you know, the same kind of thing with connecting with readers, you know. And he said that somebody recently asked my tongue is like tied there.
You can do it.
Asked him about what he thought was the best way to, you know, to get a book to a reader, and he was like, you know, in person, because you know, and I agree with that with sales too, like any kind of sales. When someone, so like when I was 19 or 20, I used to work at a record store, and I had this district manager, and he was like, you know, you play these samples, you hand them the CD. You play another sample, you hand them a CD. And then, you know, once they have it in their hands, they get to decide whatever they want to buy, right?
Yep.
But I remember one time I sold like 20 CDs to this dude, you know, and this is like, you know, when the CDs were like $15-20. And, there's something about like that tactile feeling, like that having it right in front of you, you know, like when you're talking about the Lego, you know, like Amazon has taken the place of the Sears catalog back in the day. You remember?
Oh yeah, the toy catalog.
Yeah. You remember you get the catalog and you'd sit there and look at it and you're like, oh man, I want this, I want that, and da da da. And they knew what they were doing. Sears knew what they were doing. They were sending that catalog out so the kids would look at it.
Yep, drive the parents crazy.
Yeah, and then what did that do? That, you know, drove sales. You know, because they knew that the kids couldn't go and physically look at those toys. But what's the next best thing? You got a book with pictures, color, like vivid color pictures. You know?
Yeah, getting right to them with the marketing.
Right. And what does Amazon do? And what do these other places do? I mean, like Amazon, they're like, hey, based off of this thing that you looked at, not even necessarily you purchased, but this thing that you looked at, this might be something else that you would be interested in.
Yeah, it's the algorithms. The algorithms are very interesting in the way they run the world lately.
Yeah, and I think when you're talking about like getting your books in front of readers, barring that they've read something of yours in the past, showing them an actual book and saying, hey, this is what the book's about, and letting them hold it, I think is one of the best ways to try to connect with a reader. But then, you know, how do you do that? You know, like you said, I don't go to any of my events expecting to sell books. It's a nice little byproduct. And I tell the authors, I'm like, hey, you know, it's up to you to sell books, but you know, we're here for like a charity fundraiser, or we're here for whatever. You know, you can sell books, but you know, it's not necessarily what we're trying to do. We're trying to raise money, or, you know, like with the other things, like you go in there, you're like, yeah, I can sell books. I'm going to sell books, but my goal is to connect with people.
Oh yeah.
First.
Yeah. That's the thing that a lot of times, you know, since it is such a solo gig being a writer, it's that just getting out there and talking to people is not something that a whole lot of writers consider. But I think it's the best part, especially setting up panels and just having people just you know, get those multi-day conventions, just hanging out with people at the bar, just talking books. It's just fun. I mean, I guess it makes me a huge nerd, but I really enjoy talking books with people.
Oh, I do too. And I mean, you know, I think that's the cool thing about it, because it's interesting too, because there's, I mean, you could break it down to a lot of different ways, you know, because you could talk about writing, you could talk about editing. I mean, like all these different little categories. You could talk about publishing, cover art. I mean, like there's all these different facets that go into making a book, you know, and go ahead.
No, sorry. That's just that. You know, people always ask, how do you do it? You know, with the sad part is that 100,000 words is the easy part, and then all the rest of it, you know, I can outline my book and then write the 100,000 words, but then when you asked me to write the blurb for you, I was like, that's painful. That took me like 2 days. I was like, that's the hardest part. The 350 words to summarize the first 100,000 is the worst part.
Did you like the little formula though?
Oh yeah,
that's the shit about Superman. That, like, I ripped that one straight off the comic books. Yeah, because I mean, I don't know. I've always found that works really well, and it's crazy how they use that same formula again. Like breakdown. Like I'm a big Transformers fan, y'all. So breakdown of like any '80s action comic cartoon toy line. I don't care what it was. It could be G.I. Joe, He-Man, Transformers. My Little Pony was a big popular one for the kids. You know, any of those little things. You have week to week, you have your base characters, your main characters. But when they were selling toys, they were like, hey, we've got our status quo, and then all of a sudden there's a new bad guy that's stronger than all of us.
Yeah, right. They just keep enhancing the bad guys.
Right. But luckily, we've got this new good guy who can counter that bad guy and make it, like we're even balanced now, And it was always like that. And then the like comic books, you know, for example, with the comics, it's like, you know, like, this is the thing that I sent to John because he was having a hard time with the blurb. I was like, man, like Superman, you know, saved the day, but there's a new villain that's, you know, beating Superman up, and you know, is Superman going to be able to, you know, come back and save Metropolis? You know, how's he going to do that? You know, like, can he save the day today? Like, for the 1 millionth time, will Superman be able to save it today? You know, and it's always that, like, you know, the what if, like, can he? I don't know. Is this the time that he will actually fail? Like, you know.
I do appreciate, and I think our generation was lucky, was that, and I wasn't a huge comic book guy, but I appreciated, you know, several. But we were growing up when Batman got defeated by Bane, and then Superman got the Superman series.
Yeah.
That I mean, now they do it like every other day, and just bring them back like they're zombies. But that first time Batman got defeated was a pretty big deal. But, you know, now they just put him back together. He's more like Iron Man than Batman anymore.
You know, and it's so crazy too, because I thought about, I've often compared Iron Man and Batman, because Batman and Iron Man, they're both billionaires. You know, they're both based off of tech. Iron Man, you know, Batman was more like physical prowess and training. Iron Man was more like his suit did all the heavy lifting, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, Iron Man was like, you know, back in the day, he was like a slovenly drunk, you know, that would just get in the Iron Man suit and go whoop everybody's tail, you know?
Yeah, saving the world with a hangover.
Yeah, whereas Batman's like, you know, he's like, I must go to the gym to relieve my pain, you know?
Yeah.
He's like,
dude, lighten up.
Yeah. Everything. I like that Bane thing. Batman. Darkness. Yeah. You know, like that Bane voice. Yeah. You merely adopted the darkness. I was born in it, raised by it. I never saw the light until I was already a man. I'm butchering that quote, but I just think it's so funny. But yeah, everybody, you're tuning in today to WRULP Savannah, Georgia, 107.5 FM, WRU.org. We are Savannah Soundings Community Radio with Global Soul. So talking about like writing mechanics and the superhero, the superhero mechanic or whatever, you know, that kind of goes back to mythology. You know, like all these stories that we tell, they're the same structure but new and different. You know, like this guy that I knew, he said, you know, give your audience what they want and give it to them real good, right? And this guy had a PhD in English, and I was like, wow, you know, it was so great because, you know, give them what they want, give it to them real good.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing, man. It's like we all want something that's familiar, but we want something new and different, right?
Yeah, that's the one thing, and I'd never had any plan on writing series. It just, I just had that character that I wanted to work with.
Mm-hmm.
So she fit really well into that Shattered Circle universe. But yeah, the last thing, you know, the thing that you freak out about, at least for me, is that formula. I can't stand it when I open a book and within 10 pages I already know like everything that's going to happen because it's just following that formula every time.
Yeah.
But at the same time, that pattern is what people really like. So, you gotta, like you say, you gotta give people what they want, but I just don't want to ever be cloning books, you know?
No.
Based on a formula.
No. But you do, you know, like you do want to use structure, you know, you want to take people through a journey. You know, and I think that's one of the cool things about like a, you know, buddy cop story, like yours, you know, with the Jackson Cole, because you actually write other stuff too that's not urban fantasy, right?
No, yeah, I've split pretty much between mostly crime thrillers. No series with those. I've got some one-offs. I lost my mind and did a high fantasy a couple of years ago, Die Hard in the Castle, which was really fun, but man, that took a lot of research that I did not plan on.
Yeah. Well, you did a great job of world building that one too.
Yeah, it was so much fun. But I mean, but all that just came from, you know, like I did with Jackson Cole. I can't stand a book where, you know, your good guy is supposed to be going up against this huge bad guy, but in his back pocket, he's like, especially in like the fantasy world where his great uncle was like some super druid or something. So at the end of the day, he's got all this power that he has anyway.
Yeah.
So like I did with Jackson Cole, I don't give him anything. That dude's he's got a set of handcuffs and a sidearm. That's it. Good luck. But with the Wraith of Shelter Mountain, the one, the Die Hard in the Castle, I wanted to do the same thing, but I wanted to take, Joffrey from Game of Thrones. You just hate him. You just hate that kid so much. He's so spoiled, and just evil.
Yeah.
So I took the really spoiled part, ditched the evil part, but then threw this guy in his castle, destroyed all of his guards, and filled it with mercenaries. And good luck. Good luck with that.
You're like, hope you make it through.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see what happens. You don't have to survive to win.
Yeah, I think that's the cool thing with storytelling. Because we're all storytelling beings. Even if you're not a writer or anything like that, we're all storytelling beings. We all are. I mean, like, we talk about like our day. We talk about like what we want to do. We talk about we tell stories. We tell stories. We eat food. We tell stories. And a lot of times the food we eat tells stories. So even that, like recipes, that's a story. You got to have a formula for that.
I don't think I've ever actually followed a recipe, and that much to my wife's chagrin when I'm the one cooking. But I just kind of make stuff up, throw it all together, and see what happens.
How do you make hamburgers?
I just smash stuff together and put seasoning that I think will taste good, and then throw it on the grill.
Do you use hot dog buns for them?
No, regular buns.
Regular buns.
Yeah, just find a good.
So you just use a common recipe that everybody else follows.
But I wasn't reading it. I didn't look it up.
I know, man. I'm just saying, like, we have like this common, like a common bond of society. Like, we have this expectation, and the same thing with the books. Going back to that with we want something new and different, but want something that's familiar.
Yep.
And I think that's one of the reasons why, like, sometimes, they talk about this thing called a promise of the premise. So, like, if somebody picks up, Jackson Cole novels and they're expecting it to be, like this urban fantasy detective story, and then all of a sudden you go into Killer Space Clowns, and they're like, what? What is this?
That'd be a hard swing.
Yeah. So, that, I think that's the good thing about, like, and I'm not saying, being formulaic. I'm not saying that at all. I think that's the good thing about, like, hey, I want to write this book about XYZ, and then I'm going to deliver on that story about XYZ. I'm not going to take somebody, I'm going to give them some twists and stuff like that, but it's going to be related to Jackson Cole.
You can't just do it. You can't just do a twist for the sake of a twist.
Right.
It's gotta be legit. I just there's a couple rules I follow when I'm writing, but for the most part, it's just the situation and the characters dictate what happens. I just like to have an idea for an ending before I start, because I can't stand the idea of getting 75% through and then having no idea how to wrap it up.
And the reason why I asked you about the hot dog buns is because, like, I was starving before I came to the studio today, and I went to two different places that one place was like, we're shorthanded, we can't serve food right now. I was like, what? And I ended up going to a gas station and getting a couple of roller dogs.
Ooh, gambling.
Yep. They were good. They were Johnsonville stuff, so it was good. But the reason I was asking that was because I was thinking about those cheeseburger roller dogs that they have. And believe it or not, I know it sounds crazy, but if y'all have never had one before, a cheeseburger roller dog from a gas station, I'm not saying it's like first pick, second, third, fourth, or even 10th, but it is, in a pinch, you can get one, and you're gonna, it's gonna give you a cheeseburger flavor. I like to think of them as more like a cheeseburger flavored product.
An experience.
Right. It's not quite like, a John Stamp, handmade burger, grilled out, perfectly, made or whatever. It's not one of those. It's not going to be that quality. It'll get you through.
Yeah, I'm not that good at cook. So,
I bet you could grill a mean burger, though.
Yeah, I can grill. I can do burgers, and I the only thing that I haven't tried yet is like grilling fish. So it's just that one. I don't think I'm up to the task yet to do that right. So
I bought one of those. I haven't grilled anything out this year. I've been lazy with the heat, but I bought one of those little cedar planks.
Yeah.
You soak it and then you kind of grill it like that, and it's pretty decent. So, all right, John, where's the best place that people can check out your stuff? I know we're gonna send people to ValhallaBooks.com, but it's johnstamprider.com, right?
Yep, yeah, there and the Amazon page, pretty much.
Awesome.
Yep.
So we're gonna come back, y'all, at the 4:00 hour. We're just gonna shoot the breeze some more, talking about writing and John's new books. We're gonna talk about some more of his other books that he has out and his blog, because he is actually one of those folks that writes a blog pretty regularly.
Yeah, you're and actually it's your fault that I have a blog. So.
Yeah, I love that.